Hey there viewers, and welcome back to part 2 in this TORO lawnmower saga. So part 2 is going to have to do with rebuilding the carburetor. I shouldn't say rebuilding, because my point is to put no new parts into this. So this mower is a little bit older. The customer doesn't want to sink a bunch of money into it. We have labor. We have part 1 where we went through the ignition system, diagnosed that and replaced the magneto and verified that that issue is indeed fixed. We have a secondary issue now, which is the carburetor, because when the ignition system died, you shove the mower in your shed and you leave it there. So then, you finish out the year, I don't know, using your neighbors or something like that. Either way, we've had bad gas sitting in this. So what I'm going to try to do is remove the float bowl, clean out the inside of the carburetor, clean the main jet, which I'm pretty sure on this, it's been a little bit since I've taken one apart, but I believe the main jet is actually built into the bolt. We'll flush the emulsion tube and the passages and such as best we can. The gaskets aren't too terribly expensive, but I really want to try to avoid getting into the gaskets area because that's just more money that we're going to end up having to spend to get this unit fixed. So if we can't clean it on the vehicle, on the machine if you will, we will end up having to take it off. If I can't clean it with it off of the unit, then we're going to end up replacing the carburetor. So that is what I know. Let's get started. It is a half. So you're probably asking yourself, do I need to call the customer and ask if we want to proceed further? And that's actually going to depend on how much time that you have in this. So we're well under the hour. So if you're billing, by the hour, oh, that's nasty. Oh, that stinks. Oh, it's green. Yeah, you can see the green on that. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Anyway, if you're billing by the hour and you have time, it's going to be worth your while to ask, to proceed. If you're running up against the clock, oh yeah, that gas is green, then it's probably the point where you want to make a phone call and see what exactly the customer wants to do. So that gasket is really crusty. I'm probably just gonna leave it. It's pretty bad. So what we actually want to clean on this, hopefully you can see it. There's a whole bunch of crusties kind of growing in the bottom of this bolt, and if you scrape it with your fingernail, you can see the green stuff, and it's plugged the holes in the bottom of this jet. In fact, this jet's actually holding gasoline in the middle, and you can see how green that is, and that's just kind of what gas does. So we're going to get this bolt all cleaned out with various instruments and tools to make that happen. Probably a wire brush, welding tip cleaner. I know you're not supposed to do that, but it is probably what it's going to be when it's this packed. So let's see what happens. Down here, this is just kind of, there we go. You can see the wad of trash that came out of that. So get in there, clean it out good. Okay, flush it with carb cleaner. Nonetheless, it works a little bit better. I suppose you could always replace the bolt, but by the time you do that, you might as well replace the carburetor with the aftermarket one. I'm just going to get in here and break the crud loose as best I can. It's nasty. Yeah, that pokes in it pretty easy. Once you can kind of get through the garbage, you can start to get the carb cleaner flushed through it. So I take my bent straw, push it up, safety squints engage, let it rip. Oh, that's looking good. We'll just keep doing that until this bolt looks brand new, folks. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna spray. You see I bent the end of my straw, so I'm just gonna kind of put my finger over it, and that's gonna kind of let us put some pressure through there, and then I'm also gonna scrape it out. I think the Hondas you can remove the, I call it the emulsion tube, but we're just gonna try to find the middle here. I don't believe you can remove it from the Tecumseh. There we go. I'll just kind of poke and prod around. Again, we're not trying to enlarge any of the orifices, we're just kind of trying to stir the green pus up and out. So that looks probably as good as we're gonna get it. I did get our bolts all cleaned up real nice. Our bowl is cleaned out good. And then hopefully you can kind of see how that bolt cleaned up. We'll take another look at it. Okay, so moment of truth. We are just gonna put a little bit of silicone grease. Hopefully you can kind of see that just on this edge. Hopefully it helps that gasket to do its thing. And then you want to install the float bowl correctly with the little dot facing the little protrusion on that float bowl. So hopefully everything kind of, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just close. So then we'll screw that guy back on. And all that good stuff. A little tight. About that tight. Flip it over, see the leaks. Don't spill. What we're going to do now, add some seafoam and some fresh. Don't spill. So now we want to see if it fires up. Cross your fingers. Yeah, primer bulb's got a hole in it. Okay, so this thing actually runs pretty decent if you hold the primer bulb in, and that's because she's pretty rotted out. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and get behind this little snap ring here with a screwdriver, and can pretty much extract the primer bulb out. These are not gonna run correctly with a leak in this primer bulb diaphragm, unfortunately. So save your little spring and all that stuff just kind of sits, you know, neatly down inside of there. So this one here, you can kind of look at it and see, if I got it in frame, that there's a hole in the bottom of the diaphragm right there. So all right, welcome back, folks. It's been about a week. It's funny how imperceptible the camera is to the passage of time. So parts have been ordered. I must suck at life because I find the bulb for $13. Excuse me. I find a replacement carburetor for $17, which, you know, you always got to double check. But it comes with the bulb. 13, 17. With the hesitation we kind of heard before, we're gonna throw a carburetor on this. This is just definitely the way to go. It's an aftermarket. I got it on eBay, so we'll see if it works. From the seller Glen Parts, not a sponsor of the show, probably fresh from the mainland. It does come with a gasket for the intake manifold, and the one that goes on the back here, just having had these apart before, has an O-ring on it, so I don't anticipate there being any issue as far as that's concerned. So this is basically held in with 2 bolts here, very easily that you can see, and 2 screws here on this side that you can see. We do need to take one picture, which I will show you right about now, of the top of the engine as far as where the throttle linkage hooks in. So I do recall having to put an aftermarket carburetor on another Tecumseh because it wasn't worth fixing. I think it was a snowblower, and it was actually the same situation where somebody had left gas in it, except that one had a remote primer bulb. So definitely make sure you're getting the correct, carburetor for your service. So for your application. Otherwise, this carburetor has 0 identifying marks on it. Let's wing it on the equipment. Let's get this done in like 10 minutes or less. Okay, so here's the current setup. Tank, as you can hear, is still definitely full of gas. I just drop it to the edge, and then you can see where everything is hooked up on the carburetor. I move the breather and up off to the side somewhere where it's gonna be out of the way. You can usually just disconnect them right there. It's usually pretty easy. We got 2 bolts. Do take note that the finger is bent back. When we put the new carburetor on it, we may have to bend that tab to get, normal lawnmower RPM back out of it. So otherwise, the linkages are really simple. I did mark where everything goes. We're gonna go with a 3/8 on the front and a 7/16 here on the back, and we'll just take these both loose. It is a little bit of a tedious process till you can spin them here with your finger, like what you can see. Then I usually just hold it with my finger, and hopefully you can just spin it off. I'm not too concerned about the governor spring. It is very stretchy. So maybe we can give it the old 2-finger spin here. And we can. So that's easy. The bolt will stay sort of captured. You can kind of see what's going on here. And then I'll take this guy off of this side. I see the gasket's gonna come with the carburetor, which is awesome. So, okay, it's gonna tear, of course. Maybe not, but you get the idea. So we're just gonna remove, and then a gentle little bend. Bring the gas tank up. We can take it off the governor arm and just bring the whole thing out like such. I'm just gonna grab and twist, and then I can grab the clamp here, slide it down. And there's the gas tank. Again, that is still full of gas. So we'll just set him aside. And then we need to remove the end adapter off the carb. To do that, we'll just use a Phillips. I suppose you could remove this with it on the equipment, but it's just a little bit of a pill. So not really a big deal. There should be an O-ring. Cross your fingers. Just wipe this stuff off. It looks like there's an O-ring right there, and it's usually good. Rarely are they to the point where you got to replace them. So the paper gasket is just a completely different story. It's usually toast. So we should be done with the old carburetor. At this point, we're just going to set it aside. I'm going to keep this gasket so we can build another one in AutoCAD and just have those on hand, which is always nice. We can get the new carburetor, which is this guy here, and clean the O-ring. Put the O-ring back in. There is no real direction that it's supposed to go. No big deal. And then this should go on. We're gonna have to bend the little plastic straw a little bit, but whatever. That's how she's gonna be. Line everybody up. I'm just gonna start the screws. So hopefully you can see that. Next up, I'm gonna take the brand new gasket that they gave me right here. I'm just gonna wipe some grease on it. Hopefully it fits. And this is just to make it a little bit sticky so it doesn't, figure out which side you made sticky. I guess it's kind of both in this case. Kind of keeps things from flopping around everywhere. Then I'm gonna bring the carburetor up, hook the gas tank back into it, and attach the fuel line. Put the clip in an impossible to reach location, of course. And then we will, where's the governor? Oh, right there. I did put the governor, or excuse me, the throttle back into the appropriate hole, so we'll just hook it into the governor arm real quick and easy. And of course, surprisingly for an aftermarket part, this thing looks like it fits, which is always nice. So I'm just gonna thread this guy on loose, both of them, until we get everybody lined up. Usually there's quite a bit of slop kind of going on in these nuts. And here you can see the struggle's quite real, where I'm wedging a screwdriver between the valve cover and the little bolt holding the carburetor on to keep it from turning while I'm tightening it. All right, we're gonna do this live, folks. So I want a little bit more RPM out of it, so we're just gonna very carefully reach in, very carefully. We're gonna twist. There's a little tab that was holding that spring, so that makes that spring just a little bit tighter. We'll pretty much twist or bend, whatever works. Well, there you got it, folks. So that is the long, convoluted way of replacing the carburetor on your Tecumseh LV-195EA series engine. So, suppose check some part prices first. Probably would have made more sense to just wing a carburetor on it in the beginning. In fact, that's definitely what I would do if I had to do this job over again on this particular unit. So it's a little bit of a toilet, had a couple different problems. Why don't you go down to that comment box and do a couple of things like give me a thumbs up, give me a comment. Why don't you share your Tecumseh stories with me? Maybe you love them, maybe you hate them. This one's gonna live to mow another day. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.